Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me in this session on Google Slides for GEG APAC Weekend 4.0, well, staying connected 4.0. If you've been with us for the last 2.5 days, you're amazing. I can't believe the stamina that you have. We have loads and loads of teachers from India all the way to Japan and in pretty much every country in between, all across Asia, giving presentations, sharing their knowledge, sharing their skills. Very energizing, very exciting. So thank you for joining me with this session on dynamic approaches to using Google Slides. I'm working solo here, so I've got my iPad going, I've got my phone going for when you might have some comments. So please do throw your comments in the chat. I will look at them from time to time. And drop your name and where you're coming from in the comments as well. We'd like to see where people might be. So, without further, oh yes, and one more thing. At the end of the session, I will give you a form where you can fill out the form. And if you want to get a certificate, then the form will automatically generate a certificate for you and email it to you. We will keep your information private, but we will also put your name in for a raffle this evening, 10 o'clock Japan Standard Time, 6:30 in India, 9 p.m. in the Philippines, for example, or Southeast Asia. We're going to draw for a free Google Certified Educator exam voucher. Save you about $10 and get you on your way. Anyhow, without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to get into the session. And if you're joining us in real time, great. And if not, not a problem. You can always check the video out a little bit later. This is going to be about 30 minutes or so, I suspect. All righty. So as I sip my coffee and we do this, so dynamic approaches for Google Slides and impactful slide design. We're going to spend probably about 20 minutes or so looking at some examples of how you can use Google Slides in the classroom. And then after that, I'll show you a few things about designing slides that you may not know about. I think people can learn Google Slides pretty quickly. Lots of tutorials out there, but sometimes there's some things that you may not know about, and I'm going to show you. First off, my name is Nate. I'm from Canada, but been living in Japan for 24 years now and love traveling around Asia and, meeting the nice people and eating the good food. I teach MYP Individuals and Societies and Diploma Program History at Nagoya International School, which is why most of these examples you'll see today are related to, individuals and societies and history. I apologize, but try to imagine how you can do this in your own teaching context. I am also an educational technology consultant. I'm a Google for Education trainer, Adobe Education leader, just recently became one of those. I'm excited. I just have a number of certifications. You can learn more about me by following me online. And yes, you can keep in touch. You can visit my YouTube channel, Social Studies Samurai, or my website, socialstudiessamurai.com. Or you can check me out on Twitter at Nathan Gildart, and my training website as well. So today's session is not that. I'll update that later. It is on Google Slides and how we can use them more effectively in the classroom, not just for giving presentations, but also a little bit on design, which I mentioned before. Before we begin, I want to show a couple of really great resources you may or may not have heard about, but one is called Slides Mania. And this is a resource where you get templates for slides, and they're completely free. Sometimes they're games, sometimes they're activities. So let me put my glasses down here so I can kind of see. I'm going to choose the tab Education. Let's see. I'm not going to go with choice boards. Let's go with, I think, the notebook style is kind of cool because it turns it into, we have these templates for notebooks. Let's let that load and let me coffee up here. Okay, so for example, let's see if you had a summer reading. Now let's go with the yeah, like a digital journal template kind of thing. If you tap on this, you can have a look at the template. Yeah. And so I'm not going to go through all the slides, but you can see here, this is like the title slide and then your first, second, third slide. These are all made for you. They're already prepared. So you don't have to spend lots and lots of time making things. Let me just look at an easier one here. Let's go with choice boards. I'm showing you choice boards later that I use, but here's a place where you could get some templates for choice boards, and you could just find your own, level appropriate choice board, for example. Have a look at Slides Mania, and I do recommend to Slides Carnival. Again, they're just a whole bunch of different templates that you can download for free. Some of them have the watermark, some of them don't, but for the most part, they are free. Very popular among teachers. So I didn't want to start this without mentioning Slides Mania and Slides Carnival. Very cool stuff. Okay, so let's look at some slides for activities, okay? Now we're going to be looking at some of the things that I do. This is not a very pretty table in the next two slides, those slides are coming a little bit later. But anyway, I'm gonna show you a few ideas and ways that I use slides in the classroom, and not for just giving presentations. Okay, so one thing is audience Q&A. Like as you present, if you want, right? If I look at my presenter controls here, let's say you are my students in the class and I show an image or I ask you a question. And then if I tap on this, I'm going to be able to go to more and then Q&A. And then what's going to happen is your students are going to be prompted to answer a question. Now, I haven't set this quite up right now, but I wanted to point out that that is there for you. All right, let me just get out of here. You can see I got StreamYard going on here. Excuse me. Now, another thing that I do, what we're looking at right now is the beginning of your class, right? Using slides for provocations. What I always do is when students come walking in the class, I have something projected on the board for them to think about. So now, to be honest, teenagers are teenagers, and they'd always look at the board and go like, right, I'm really engaged. I want to check that out. You can just say like, hey, check the board, talk to your shoulder buddy. Hey, check the board. And basically you can put different information on a slide and you can have a provocation, and it's a good way to get the class going. So I'm showing you an example right here from my diploma program history class. And let me just throw up, while this loads a little bit, I've got lots going on my computer, so. And I'm going to say, whoa, didn't look at that. Hey, and greetings. One Nor Ashmabinti Arshad. Great to see you from Malaysia. All right. I've got lots of friends in Malaysia here. But here's an example of something that I'll do. Getting back to the start of the class. So I have a slide projected on the board, and you can see here it says to do. This is what you've got to do today. You've got to participate, or you've got to collaborate. What's due? What assignments are due? And then I have the skills that we're going to focus on. And then it's got that provocation. So when we begin class, this is already on the board. Students see it. And then I can say, okay, everybody, just keep in mind today we're going to do activities where you participate and nothing is due. And today we're going to focus on collaborating and evaluating sources. But first, with your shoulder partner or your small group, what do historical sources do for us? How do they help us as people? Let me give you another example. What is an account of an historical event? When is an account of an event reliable? Or let's see, these are getting a little bit deeper here for those. All right, so what is globalization doing to our planet and its people? All these provocations have some relationship to my history class. And you can notice too, down below, I've got the date in here. I have a reminder where they can get writing support. And I also have our Twitter account where they can, look at. That's not mine, that's our school Twitter account. And notice I've got my image sourced here as well. So that's what students see when they come into my class in the beginning of the day, almost every single day. Now, another thing you can do with slides, again, this is after I have that provocation up. Maybe what I'll do is do some review from what we did last class. And trying to see the live chat here. Oh, I'm trying to hit play. There we go. So what I'll do is, I know I have glare on my glasses here, right? Not cool. I'll project images or historical sources. I mean, it could be a data table, for example. And I put the numbers there so the students know. It says 1, 2, 3, 4, 4. That was in my copy and paste editing here today. But so I'll say, I want you to talk about 2 out of 5 of these things with your shoulder partner. Choose 2. maybe more if you want, but you got 2 minutes to talk about it. What do you remember? So we're using slides to review, but I've got the images here, and then I can get a class discussion going to review instead of doing something kind of boring like answer these questions. It's like, all right, what do you remember about number 4? Oh, well, that's the Iwakuni mission. Let's see, they went to America to sign like a trade agreement and that kind of thing. And that's just a Google slide. Same idea. I might take a single image, project it on the board, and I've got a series of questions where students are going to talk to their shoulder partners, and then they're going to, get ready to talk to the class, right? So they have that time to be safe, talk with a small group or a partner, and then we can go over. It's like, even since I project on the whiteboard, I can take my whiteboard marker and circle things if I want. Well, hey, look right here, look right here. There's other things you can do in slides instead of writing on the whiteboard, of course, and I'll show you later. But here's an example of some charts that I just put them up and say, okay, what does this tell us about Japan in the 1910s and 1920s up to the 1930s? And these are good thinking skills. So we've got some charts on the board. The kids have to look at the numbers, but it's all related to history. Let's see. Hey, Namrata, great to see you again. Thanks for joining last night. And yes, slides are one of my favorite tools as well. I hope you get a few ideas from this. And we're in provocations right now, just getting short activities like 5 to 10 minutes. I do think slides are great for brain breaks. So, for example, even when I do presentations with parents, I'll usually take some ancient technology and I'll put it on the board. And remember, a brain break doesn't really have to relate to your subject. You're trying to, rest the mind. But I try to kind of relate it somehow to social studies. So I don't teach ancient history. So I think some ancient history images are kind of fun. It's like, all right, everybody, brain break. Let's stop talking about, the inter-warriors. Number 1, number 2, what do you think these are? Go for it. Talk to your shoulder partner, speculate, think. And sometimes maybe you could put they could put their responses on Mentimeter, or maybe it could be in the stream in Google Classroom or a poll everywhere. There's different places they could put their answers. Answer Garden, for example. And so they think about like, I wonder what that is. And these two are relatively easy. You probably know what they are, but you don't know when and where, right? Just for your interest's sake, number 1 on the left, that's bikini bottoms from ancient Egypt, and on the right, they're Etruscan dentures. So yes, 2,500 years ago, Northern Italians, the Etruscans, were making dentures, which is pretty cool. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is kind of jump out and of the slide deck, and I'm going to be looking at some different examples of how you might want to use slides in the classroom, ways that I find are working fairly well. Let me start with some graphic organizers. This attached slide deck is not completely finished, but it'll give you a few ideas. I tend to make organizers in Google Drawings, and in some cases I'm moving them to Google Slides as well. So let me just... Now, I don't have completely finished copies here with some of these because they come from old accounts and that kind of thing. But as that loads, okay, so these are sequence flow charts. And I just have another comment. It's like, yeah, brain breaks are a lot of fun. They are. So here, for example, I might give students a video to look at, or a reading, or some kind of material where they have to pull the information out themselves. And then they have on a Google slide the steps in the process. And so here's an example of, the volcanic process. And in the end, this is kind of what they should have had. This was a grade 8 activity, if I remember. Choice boards. Yeah, why not put a choice board in a Google slide or drawing? There's different places to do that, of course, even Google Docs. This is one with the French Revolution that was kind of fun. Students were looking at the decadence of King Louis the 16th and Marie Antoinette and the nobility in France. But what they did was use and attached. I didn't put the worksheet in here, but I have an example of that later. But they had a worksheet where they had the choice board. In this case, they worked in groups, and there was group 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6, and we'll show you that later. But they could go to one place, like the King's bedchamber, look at it in virtual reality, and then I have another slide where they could, write their thoughts. And I do have an example of that I'll show you in a minute. Hexagonal thinking is another one. Again, students might have another piece of material as a resource. Maybe it's It could be a reading, could be a piece from a textbook, of course, reading, could be from a video, you never know, right? But hexagonal thinking is you give them that first idea, and then as they do the reading, they start putting pieces together, because sometimes you might have 2 or 3 things that connect. So for example, this middle hexagon here, it can have 1, 2, 3, even more perhaps, things that are interrelated. And so this hexagonal thinking gives students a chance to kind of think about how things are connected and in multiple ways, right? And this, you could do this with other subject areas as well. Just looking at the thing. Oh, graphic organizers are great. Yeah, and we'll show you a few ideas when we do a little bit of a design bit in a little while. An anticipation guide is another one. Now, if there's a lot of writing involved, maybe a Google Doc would be better for this. But I think a Google slide just for getting some basic ideas down is fine. So here, we're looking at citizenship. And so the statement is in the middle of the table. And before you do the reading, the students write, I agree or I disagree because, and then they do a reading or look at a video or maybe have a discussion with the class and get other opinions. And then after, it says, thoughts after reading. It could be thoughts after viewing, thoughts after discussing with my group. But do you agree or disagree? And it gets them to challenge their thinking, and they can think, oh, have I changed my mind after talking to other people or watching a video or doing a reading now that I know more? Venn diagrams, I didn't get a chance to finish this one, but maybe we can put one together later. You can make Venn diagrams where the colors are pulled down. And mind maps. I will put some samples in here a little bit later on. Not today, but probably by tomorrow. So those are some graphic organizers. And I'm looking at the time here. Let's see. Teaching content skill. Which to do? I gave these labels, and I'm kind of thinking, which did that do? Now, another thing that I like to do, I'm going to bounce around just a little bit here. We'll let that load. Map projections. Okay. Yes, this one right here would be observations. Kind of fun. We'll do that. That connects with the French Revolution that we were talking about. Okay, so for this one, this is how I start my high school history class with grade 11 students. Anyway, it's a 2-year program. I get them to talk with their shoulder partners. What do these things have in common? And I just keep putting these out, and the students take notes, put little sticky notes down. They kind of think, okay, this and that. And so they look at all these different things, and what do these statements have in common? They gets them thinking, and hopefully gets them curious. Just one-line statements, right? It's not just a presentation, it's interaction, right? There's active learning going on because they're working together. And this is what this is all about. They're either completely untrue, partially inaccurate, or misleading. We don't know if Jesus was a human being, then we don't know when he was born. December 25th was arbitrarily chosen by the Catholic Church. And anyway, there's a whole other bunch of pieces of misinformation in that deck, and that's kind of fun. Now this I'm going to show you. And, oh, great. Thank you very much. IPGKPP from Malaysia. Appreciate that. I'm glad I hope you're getting some ideas here. Now, going back to that choice board, right? Okay, so note I've got a nice, image in the background. I've got my image cited at the bottom here. And so I've got my instructions. And note I have a nice image in the background. I'm going to show you how to do this in a little bit. But notice here, I've got my... my text, I've got text, the paint bucket is used to fill the boxes here so that the text stands out a little bit more. Because if I didn't take the color down here, it really wouldn't look so good. We'll talk about that later. My point is the activity. So in this case, I put the students in groups and I gave them these questions to talk about as a group. And what they can do, what they did was elect someone to present to the rest of the class. So there was an element of collaboration, an element of thinking, and they were working on the same slide deck. So again, so the students had 1 out of 3. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so group 1 works on this slide. Group 2 works on this slide. 3, 4, 5, 6. And so I gave them about 10 minutes to kind of look at the different sources in the choice board. So group 1 looked at group 1. And anyway, then they could come up with their ideas and thoughts. And then there was just a very, very simple presentation. Group 1 had somebody present, say, well, we thought that blah, 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 blah. Just 30 seconds, 45 seconds, didn't have to be long. 1 minute, great. But a nice activity that took probably about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and it was active, right? And these sources, there's like 360-degree images. It's not all just text, lots of visuals, very engaging stuff. One thing I like to do at the end of my activities, not always, but usually, I just put one more slide in there and I say, how was that? And I give students about 2 minutes to talk about these 3 questions, and in particular, the 4th one. How was the timing? Were they engaged? Did they like it? What could I, as a teacher, have done better? How could the activity be better next time? And why do you think this? So I actually do take their notes. I ask them, like, okay, so what did your group talk about? What did your group talk about? Okay, it was a little too long. Okay, so next time I'll shorten it. I think students really appreciate when you actually ask them, did you enjoy that activity? And I'm in the habit of doing that now. It took me a while to get in the habit, but I do that. Okay, let me jump out of here. Yeah, the hexagonal thinking, Namrata, it's, very cool. And students, they enjoy it. I get them to do it more digitally now than I had in the past. But now we looked at teaching content, skills, of slide deck. Yeah, let me go. Here's something else that you can do. In fact, I'm going to go to the next one while it's in my head. Yeah, actually, I'm going to do this one. Teaching content with slide deck. This is your own. Let's open that right up. Okay, now the next one I'm going to show you is something, this is kind of how I teach my diploma program history class. Not only, but I use slide decks a lot, and believe it or not, my students like it. It's going to take a while for this to load simply because there's a lot of slides in here. I might use this slides deck every day for about 2 weeks. Now, I do use other resources, of course, not only the slides deck. But what I want to do is show you how it can be an effective tool for teaching. Now, there are elements of lecture, of course. So starting with a provocation. Hey, everyone, how is the world militarizing today? Because we're talking about the outbreak of World War II. So I want people to think about, our students to think about those danger areas in the world today where, there could be war. And how does the international community respond to conflicts today? Because when we talk about today, it helps them understand that the past is connected, it's related, right? And so I've got the information. This is where I would lecture, right? A little bit of background, a little bit of me talking, that kind of thing. I don't always, go into long discussions, but now here's an example of where the students become active. So in this slide, I'll be, okay, so look at the question here. I want you to analyze the source. And so they talk as a group or with a partner or that kind of thing. And then I'll ask them, okay, what do you think? And I will on the whiteboard underline things, say, okay, these are your ideas. And then I tap, and then with the color coding, I can say, like, well, here are the 3 main ideas that you should have taken from this. So it's an effective way to do this. Now, here's another thing, political cartoon analysis or any kind of image analysis, right? If you're showing an image and you want to highlight something, you get the students to talk about it. What's the message of the cartoon? And then boom, in the next one, I've got the different color coding here so that it really highlights for them what we're looking at. And I want to show you another example of doing that in here somewhere. Let me just jump down. Yeah, there we go. Notice what I've done with this one. So they have this cartoon to look at. They can talk about the image. It could be anything really, right? It could be a table. It could be anything that develops their observational or critical thinking skills. Note here, I've color coded the red and the green and the orange and that, so it makes it even easier. Now, when I'm done teaching this, I give the slide deck to my students so they can go back and they can review on their own. And it's pretty straightforward. Can we make our own templates from scratch in Google Slides? Yes, and I'm going to show you how to create your own templates from scratch. In fact, this one that you're looking at, Namrata, it's I create one template and then I use it in all my in my grade 11 and 12 classes. and then I just change it up in terms of color. So yes, you can make your own templates. Oh, I've got so much I want to show you here. Let's see, questioning. Here's another thing that I've done, and Google Slides was the basis for it. Okay, so now I'm going to delete that. Don't need that one. So what I did was create this on Google Slides. This was for a gallery walk kind of thing. Not quite a gallery walk. It was for group work. I actually made this on Google Slides, a very famous French Revolution image, right? What questions do we have? And I gave each group one of these. I printed it off in A3 size, so they were working with, their hands. And then I projected this on the board and talked about, okay, factual questions, conceptual questions, debatable questions. We had already done this before, so this really was kind of a review. But when they did the activity, I kept this slide projected on the board. They had a paper copy of this right here. And so what we did in the end, when the students came up with their questions, I took their pieces of paper and I scanned them. Or I took a photo, I can't remember. And so what I did was highlight some of the great examples of a factual, conceptual, debatable question. And so each group had something that I could highlight. See, do you see the little red squares there? That's where I highlighted some good ideas or good questions. And what I did was take those questions and put them into our guided learning kind of thing. We made sure we answered these questions before the end of the unit. Hopefully that wasn't too fast for you, but there's another way that you can use slides. Here's an example of recording. Now, I'm not going to play the video because it's going to get a little bit loud here, so I'm even going to pull that down just in case. But what I do is I use Google Slides to create lessons for my students that I put on Edpuzzle, and then I put the video up on our Google Classroom as well, so students can learn from it. This one I've got on my website. You can see it's got about 800 views or so. But this was made with Google Slides, right? And it's consistent, and I'm just kind of talking as they go through. Not the most engaging thing because it's all text, but it served my purpose. And it was done with Google Slides and just recorded on Loom or Screencastify, or probably QuickTime, actually. Can't remember exactly. But remember, you can do that as well, right? Map projections, I don't think we need because we're not all social studies teachers, right? Let's come back here to a couple that I was looking at today. We looked at that, source analysis. We've looked at examples of that. Here's one I think would be interesting. And this is for conceptual learning. So let's just have a check here. Color coding to achieve clarity in our presentation. Yep, absolutely, absolutely. Color coding is great. Thank you for your feedback, everybody. Now, let me show you this one. It's another example of where I'm using slides just for instructions and not to present. And the students actually had cards that they were working on in groups. So they were using cards to organize and categorize. So it was like thinking about concepts. So as a group, look over the white wine-colored cards and discuss with each other the basic meaning. And then take the navy blue colored cards and put them in some kind of order. And then we did a gallery walk when each group looked at each other. So they're taking, key concepts, which would be things like change. It could be, perspective. It's a middle years program kind of thing. But they had a whole pile of blue cards, and then, 4 blue cards, and then they had a whole pile of wine color cards. And then they put them in some kind of categorization. They could look at how to categorize these concepts. But what I did was go through the key concepts, and we talked about these. All right, so the key concept of change, what does it mean? What does time, place, and space mean? What does systems mean? What do global interactions mean? And then they went into the activity. And again, we talked about the timing or whatever, but really it was just the instructions up on the board using slides, but students were being active with their groups and the cards. Now, this is one I want to show because what I like is music in here. I've got little YouTube videos in this. Now in the MYP, we have something called global contexts. And let me just wait for that to load. Oh, I got so much I want to show you, but we're running down on time. It's been 30 minutes. I'm going to try to finish in 15 minutes. And I'm starting to sweat because it's hot in Tokyo. All right, something I want to point out here. Again, coffee's over. I'm going to water now. So we've got this global context activity. And so here are the instructions. You're going to hear music. This is time to think. And the music's going to stop, and it's going to be time for you to write. Then the music begins again, and this is time for you to move. And so what I do, you notice here, I've got my slides here. I can play the music, and you're not going to hear that in the beginning, but because I think I've got the music off on this. Yep. But the thing is, I put this little thumbnail because they can't really see it very well. So I can play the music. I don't need to open another tab, and it's not distracting, right? So I can just get the music going there. And this usually what this does is count down when you activate it a certain way. Notice I've got the song credit down at the bottom. And one other thing I want to point out is that, okay, they move around, they talk to somebody, they write their ideas, and then we go to the next slide and we talk about what that really means. What this is related to is identities and relationships. Then the next one, different song from a different part of the world, actually. If you notice in this deck, the songs all come from like South America, Africa, Asia, Europe, and America, the Americas, or North America, I should say, which is kind of cool. But so here's an activity where they're looking at the questions, but they're actually up and active and moving around. I'm getting really, really sweaty here. Whoa. I got to get a fan on me. Okay, so we'll come into that, and there's another example. Maybe I'll give you one or two more because I'm going to share this slide deck with you. Source analysis, what's the truth, key thinking routines. Yeah, I got to show you this one because it's kind of funny. So in order to get kids to think, sometimes you want to do some activities where they're, this is almost like a provocation, but again, you want them speculating, you want them thinking, right? Woohoo! Boy, I'm like melting. Canadian in Asia. Okay. All right. There we go. So observe. What do you think this is? I'll give you a moment to kind of look at that. What do you think that is? As I sit here and sweat. Well, some people instantly take a glimpse at it and they look at it. I mean, did people put, it's still summer in India. Yeah, I know, right? India is quite hot. I've been to Bangalore before and Kerala. Beautiful. And it was warm though. This is not an image of Jesus. It's a dog's butt. So, you can use slides in these short little, kind of fun, again, brain breaky kind of ways. Observe again. Hey, yes. Donald Trump speaking at something, a big event. And if some of you might remember this, the actual logo, the seal of the president of the United States, somebody messed around with it and put golf clubs and, they put, I think there's, missiles or darts or something and a bunch of guns. Anyway, quite funny. And, so that's another way that you can use slides in your class just for those little brain breaks kind of thing. I do want to show you this one here too. It's almost like a choice board, same idea. When students are about to start a project, you can do activities where it kind of helps them prepare for, success in that project. So here's an example of where my students were going to be researching a different kind of conflict in the world. And I wanted them to be aware of some really good websites with data, but the websites are a little bit difficult to navigate for some students. Now I'm talking grade 9 here. So I had them work in groups so that they could evaluate the site and decide, for my topic, I think this might be a good site to use. So again, there's a choice board. I had the students in 4 different groups. And we did, I reminded them of what the CRAP method was, the currency, is it timely, right? The relevance, does it relate? Authority, is this, material created by experts? All that kind of thing. So there's a reminder of the evaluation of sources, and then more questions they could think about. And then each group, these are the actual responses. And then the students, we just projected the website, and they looked at their notes that were on this slide deck. And they could share one of the websites with different kinds of data and information and navigate it and teach the rest of the class. But the material was put on a Google slide. Okay, now I think I'm getting a little bit too much into a few other things. So what I'm going to do, I do want to show, all right, so let's do some slide creation thing. And through that, I'm going to show you some add-ons and some extensions that you might want to use, because it's 3:35. I want to get this done in about 10 minutes so people can take a break before going on to other sessions. So forgive me, but what I'm going to do is delete all the elements on this slide. So while I'm on this slide, if I tap in the side right here and click Command A, I can just highlight everything and delete it. So if you're tapped in just outside of the, you're on this slide, but you're tapped on the outside, highlight, delete, and you've got everything. So let's create our own slide. Now, what I want to do is put in a background that looks really, really good, right? So what I'm going to do is go to Insert, Image, and I could upload one I get from the net, but I think I'm just going to search for something on the web. There are different ways to do this, but let's go with search from the web right now. So search for images. Let's go with, I don't know. Let's see. Anybody got an idea in there? Looking, how do we register for attendance for this slot? I'm going to post a Google form that has your attendance, and you'll get the sheet downloaded. I'll do that in about 10 minutes or so. So pop back if you've got to go. So yeah, first let's get an image in there. Let's say, I don't know, beaches. I don't really feel like I need to go on a beach right now, but okay, let's say here. Actually, you know what? Let's go with a theme. Let's go with like biomes. So let's go with desert. Go with that. And look at that. There's a great desert image right there. So I'm going to use that one right there. So I click Insert. Now, if I've put that here, that means I got to mess around with the cropping. Did you know that you can double click and then you can crop a little bit, right? Now I'm going to do a different way to put the background in, but you see how and I'm going to double click again, and I'm going to work on my cropping a little bit. So now I've got an image that completely fits my slide, but it doesn't change the dimensions. It doesn't skew, right? So it looks pretty good. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to choose background instead. Now, I don't need to put the whole image in. Actually, let me go back. Let me undo that, right? I'll just click my undo button. The nice thing about actually putting an image in like this is that if I want to format, I can, let's see, I can recolor it. So if I go to format options, maybe I want to make it, kind of a grayer scale. Let's see, that one might look a little bit better. So there's those format options that you can do, right? You can get kind of artistic if you want. I'm going to put no recolor in there. We don't need to drop shadow on that. One thing we can do, though, is change the contrast, the brightness. I can make it a little bit brighter if I want. I can make the contrast a little bit different. So you can really get fairly artistic if you want. It's not, of course, designed for art kind of thing, but it's not bad. The reflection and the drop shadow won't really work because it's a full screen image. For smaller images, you will get a reflection and a shadow. Now, I think I want to show you, though, instead of doing that, one thing you can do is for your background, you click background. I'm going a little bit fast there. Right up in the tabs there, you click background. And I don't want a color, actually. Let me choose an image. And let's go with, let's see, I'll do a Google image search. But you can do it by URL if you want. So let me go, let's see. Might as well just stick with desert again. Oh, I didn't spell that right. So I'm going to hit desert. I'm going to go to images. What I'm going to do, though, this time, I'm going to go with my tools, and I'm going to choose my usage rights, and I'm going to use Creative Commons licenses because I want to use an image that's completely free. All right, so I kind of like that one. It's got the camels in there, too. So that's Flickr. So let's see. I know that I can just copy this get this image on Flickr. Yeah, so we'll tap that. And I'm going to use the URL. We'll get into some really cool stuff in a minute here. Whoa, it's all right. Let me undo that. Refresh this here. What I want to do is download it. Might as well download a large. You always want to use high resolution images, folks. That's 396. So what I'm going to do is upload this image. So remember, just to review, we've gone to background. We're going to click choose image. I'm going to upload. And let's see, I went to my desktop there. Now remember, I'm also going to put the source where I got this. So I would go and take the Flickr license and put it in there. I click done. And the reason why I uploaded the image, now I don't have to crop. This is my background. It's not going to move anywhere. I'm clicking and all that stuff. I can't do that. Hey, Joylyn, great to see you. Great to see you, Joylyn. Yes, Google Slides are great. But let me show you a couple of things that I really like about Google Slides, though. All right, so let's say I wanted to go with another biome. Let's go with grasslands, right? I've got desert in the back kind of thing, but let's say I want to go with grasslands. Yeah, there's a good one. I'm just going to, for speed's sake, I'm going to right-click and copy the image address, and I'm going to go back to the slide. I'm going to click Insert. And I'm going to choose image, and then by URL, I paste the URL. That's not allowing me to do that. If that happens, usually it means you have to tap on the image and then copy it from the exact website. So there it is. Let's copy the image address. Hopefully this is going to work this time, or I have to get another one. Okay, and that was it. I had to go directly to the website to get it. That happens sometimes. Now, let's say I want to make this, kind of choice boardy-ish or something like that. Now, this right here is a little bit too big. I'm going to take that. But I think that doesn't look too pretty, right? So I'm going to tap on it again. So I have my blue outline. And what I'm going to do is go to my crop right here. I'm going to crop the shape, maybe to look, it could be a circle. If I click that, now I've got that kind of ovally thing. Let's check my format options here and change my size. The width is a little bit too much. Let's go with 2.5, and I'm going to make that 2.5. And now I've got, so you notice I went to format options and I changed the size and the rotation. And so let's put a little bit of line around that, make the line color change a little bit. I don't want it gray, I want it white so it stands out. Maybe make that a little bit thicker. So now I've taken an image and I've cropped it using my crop button. When you tap on an image, then you get the options, right? And you can crop it into shapes or arrows or whatever. I like the circle one. And I can add text if I just tap on it. Yeah, okay, that's not going to allow me to do it because it is an image. But hey, you could put a text box in there and then have text as well. In fact, let me go in here. I'm going to copy and paste. See how quick that was? Let's say I wanted to put, let's see, 2 circles on the side here. Let's just put them up a little bit. I want to make sure these are perfectly aligned. You see how that red line was in there? I'm going to mouse over both of those, and I'm just going to kind of move them around a little bit. In fact, I've moused over. What I'm going to do is go to Format Options, and watch this. I can change the size of both of these at the same time. I'm going to change it to 2 and 2. And I've got my perfect, well, not quite perfectly shaped, but because that's shaped all together actually to 2 and 2. So I'm going to go back actually and just change that a little bit. And I'll change that one because it was a little bit big. All right, so I'm going to highlight both of them, tap them both, or click, and now the alignment is there. Okay, now I want to show you some add-ons. Okay, now the first thing that I'm going to do, though, is kind of get a color that looks something like this. So one of the extensions, the Chrome extension from the Chrome Web Store, is the Color Pick Eyedropper. I love this extension. So look at what happens here. I'm looking for a color. I've got my, whoa, why didn't you show up? Come on now. I click on the Color Picker Eyedropper. And so I mouse over to where I've got a color that I want. I've got a lot of things going on here, so for some reason this is going real slow. Let me tap out on that one more time here. Let me close that. I've got too much going on here. Let's close that, close that, close that. All right, so you're going to like this add-on I'm going to show you. Insert icons for slides. Okay, so I've got my color picker eyedropper. Let's see, I want to find a color that is going to contrast. Let me go with that. That's an interesting color. I'm going to copy that and then close. I'm going to close this. So now I'm going to go to an add-on. Now, if to get add-ons, you have to go to add-ons and choose get add-ons. And the one I'm showing you here is insert icons for slides. And this is the one I like to do to put like little YouTube videos in. Instead of just putting a YouTube video in, what I do is take a color that kind of fits, and I'm going to paste it. So that color is going to kind of match some of the colors in here. And then I'm going to search for a computer. You can play around with insert icons for slides, but yeah, I got my computer there. I like that one. I tap once, and now it's going to come into my deck. And look at that. It's nice and transparent. So I'm going to take that, and I'm going to put it kind of in here. And so let me go to a YouTube video, Grasslands, YouTube, Grasslands, look, biomes of the world. So I'm going to tap on that. Oh, that was so quick too. Don't you love Google? And I'll look at the comments in just one moment here. Let me just pause that. I want to get the URL. I'll just copy it there. So now I'm back in my slide deck. I can close this, but you can play around and have a look at the different kinds of icons. I'm going to go to Insert, Video. By URL, because I have the URL, but I could search in there if I want. And so now my video is going to come in. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to make this sizing just a little bit different. And I'll make that just a little bit bigger. You know, maybe this is biomes of the world, and I just want this slide to be grasslands, and students are using it for an activity, right? So in fact, I'm going to delete one of those, and I'm just going to put that there. Maybe this is supposed to be deserts or something. You get the idea, all right? Let me go over here. Yeah. Just changing my dimensions just to make it look kind of perfect. Look at that. And so I'm going to add some line color here. And voila, I have that. But you know what? I want to start this at, say, 30 seconds in. And I want it to end at 1 minute. So that means it's going to start at 30 seconds and end at 1 minute. I could mute the audio, but I'm not going to do that. I want students to see it. So now I want to move that a bit, so I'm just going to tap both of those, the video and the computer. I'm going to pull it over. I'm going to put it a little bit more in the middle. Maybe I'll have slide information here. I could put in a text box. Let me show you something about that actually first. Let's say I'm going to put that right there. That's like I'm going to arrange, order, bring this to the front. Let's have my drive and copy the link. Yeah, I'm glad you're learning new things, Namrata. That's fantastic. Okay, so let me just insert some text here. But what I'm going to do, let's go with the text box. Now, let's say I want to make sure that's all aligned. And I'm going to tap out of that and do not auto fit. Do not auto fit. And then I come down. And maybe I'm going to have a nice big title in here. Is here. Okay, now the thing is, this is transparent and it doesn't stand out very well. Even if I change this to the color white, you know, it stands out here, but not here. So this is my solution. I'm going to go up to my paint bucket, right? My fill color right here. And I'm going to make it dark. And so that's pretty not very attractive, right? It doesn't look that good. So what I'm going to do is go back to my paint bucket. And I'm going to choose custom. And my fingers are getting sweaty, so this is hard now. Whoops. Go to my paint bucket. Choose custom. And I'm going to use this transparency slider here. I'm going to pull it down probably about halfway, see how that looks. So now I do have kind of a decent background, and I've also got my text that stands out better. If I want, maybe I want to, put a bit of a border around it, right? Maybe 4-point border, make the border white because this border is white, right? Let's see. And you could do that, but that's a box border, so we're going to undo that. So these are some things that I did want to show you. Now, there's other add-ons like Poll Everywhere. It's a kind of like a polling question and answer feedback tool. You can use that. Another add-on is Pear Deck. We don't have time to go into Pear Deck today, but it's a great tool, and there are plenty of tutorials on Pear Deck. Lucid chart diagrams. You can insert diagrams. If you wanted to, too, actually, if you click Insert, you can create word art, diagrams, charts. You can bring charts in from Google Sheets. But really what I wanted to show you more is a little bit of slide design with some things that some people may not use. I don't like to use the themes because the formatting is already done for you, and you're often limited. So this is kind of what I think is a little bit... it's a little better. I can have full control over my slides. So I'm going to dig up the slide. Let's see. I'm going to go down. Yesterday we had a bit of an issue with something, so I'm going to look for the form. I put it in here after a presentation yesterday, and that is Let me dig it up here. Wasn't there. Yes, there it is. I'm going to take that and copy it. Thank you for your patience. And I'm going to put this in the chat. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now as well. So I've put the Google form in. You can get your auto-generated certificate by clicking on the link and filling it out, and we'll put your name in for a draw. We're going to draw 10 p.m. Japan Standard Time, 9 p.m. in the Philippines, Singapore, Malaysia. Maybe Malaysia's a couple hours. No, it's 1 hour behind. So Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand, Singapore. You can check in at 9 o'clock tonight, 10 o'clock in Japan, and 6:30 p.m. Indian Standard Time. We're going to draw for 10 free vouchers for the Google Certified Educator Level 1. And anyway, we hope to see you there. If not, though, you don't have to join to win. If you filled out the one of the forms, then your name is definitely going to go in, and we'll send you an email with your voucher. But if you can't watch, it's kind of fun. So have yourself a lovely day. We've got a few more sessions coming up. Great to see you. You can always come back and check out this link if you got more to say. I do want to say thanks a lot, Namrat and the tech savvy teacher. Good to see you. Wanor Ashma Binti Arshad. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Thanks for coming in from Malaysia. So thank you for your comments, everybody. We really appreciate it. And anyway, I'll fix this slide deck a little bit, make it prettier so you can come back to it. In fact, I'm going to share the slide deck with you right now. I have made it public, I believe. No, I haven't, but I am right now. So I've just put the link in there. I am going to do updates in the next couple of days, so feel free to come back and have a look at it. Thanks for joining us. Please have a look at some of the other sessions. We've had a lot of great presentations over the weekend. Almost there. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.